next presentation is by past International Director Steve Glass from Bridgeport, West Virginia, United States. Past International Director Steve is approaching his 40th year as a Lion, but he'll tell you that age and tenure doesn't matter nearly as much as our attitude and our openness to new ideas. He served on the International Board of Directors from 2012 to 2014, and most recently has chaired the 2020 District Governors Elect Program. As we look to the future of Lions, the quality of our future will depend on the quality of the questions that we ask ourselves. To inspire us and to challenge us to look inward with three important questions, I'd like to welcome past International Director Steve Glass.
Thank you so much, Wendy, for that kind introduction. Welcome, Lions, wherever you may be, to this symposium. I hope that you are as excited about this learning opportunity as I am, and I hope that you have been able to take some wonderful ideas away from our presenters thus far. I want to also thank the Young Lions Task Force for the opportunity to share some of my thoughts on the state of Lionism as we know it. And as Wendy suggested, ask you three very existential questions that we need to ask. This symposium is entitled The Future of Lionism. I choose to believe that we are experiencing and living the future today, as witnessed by this young and dynamic team's effort to bring this presentation to us all around the world through their effective utilization of technology. They are demonstrating both the present and the future right before our eyes. I applaud them and I feel blessed that they have invited me to be a part. I also choose to believe that our younger Lions and Leos are not only our future, they are a very large part of our present. So let's start treating them accordingly. You will see that a large part of my remarks will reinforce this belief. During my presentation, I'm going to challenge many of you. I'm going to pose some provocative questions for many of you. My intent is not to point out or embarrass anyone, but simply to point out some behaviors that we need to modify if we truly want to ensure a bright future for our association and leave a lasting legacy, as Nick so pointed out so well earlier. If you become uncomfortable with some of the ideas that I suggest or the questions that I pose, that's perfectly okay. We can agree to disagree and still respect one another and work as a team to make our future brighter. That's my sole mission. You see, I firmly believe that we're on a critical path, particularly in North America, from the as-is state, which I don't think we're happy with, to the to-be state. We're at that critical point where tomorrow truly depends on today. Are you ready to come with me on a journey where we critically examine our individual and collective behavior and current practices? Are you ready to look at the way you serve in a different light? I certainly hope so. With that said, let's examine three existential questions that need to be asked. Are we willing to break away from traditional thinking and embrace a new approach to listening to new ideas, different ways of seeing things, and letting go of control? You see, the first of those two items have been talked about by every presenter, and we're going to amplify on them. Another question we need to look at is, are we willing to embrace leadership encouragement and membership support as vital services that we provide to our members, being equally as important as the humanitarian services that we provide to the public? In Jody's fireside chat, you heard her mention many times the value of thank you and gratitude, and the value of satisfying members as well as satisfying the public. We're going to explore that in more depth. And third, are we willing to embrace a new way of looking at our relationship with one another and our association? I certainly hope that we are willing to do those things. Let's move forward. Jody, I am sure among the attendings out there today, there are very seasoned Lions, such as myself, as well as a vast majority of newer Lions, particularly millennials, Gen Xers, etc. I think we need to define traditionalists for our newer Lions. And hopefully, some of you can identify some of them along with me. First of all, a traditionalist, in my view, is one who's generally been a very active Lion leader for many years. In fact, they brought our association forward for 102 years. They've served their club, district, multiple district, and the association well in many ways. But they are unable to adapt to changing demographics around them and different needs in the community, especially with the needs of our newer members, which include many of the Gen X, millennial generation, two of a subgroup of our public that have two working parent families, other different needs that younger people may have. They are generally afraid of technology specifically and any change in general. You may often overhear them saying, when I was, or we used to have, or you have to. Let me caution you about you have to. We are all volunteers. The only have to that you need to do is follow your passions and follow your heart. You are not an employee, you're a volunteer. They generally see the problem that we face today in Lionism as not of their making or choice, but rather as young people don't want to get involved, or young people are lazy, or they're too busy. When all of the data that we collect shows us just the opposite is true. They will often admit that they would like to have younger members in their clubs, yet they make no effort to redesign their clubs in ways that are appealing to these younger members or minorities. They generally want to hold on to club traditions that are antiquated or can't be explained to younger members. One of the questions posed earlier during the presentation was, what do younger Lions think of vests? That depends on which younger Lion you talk to. Many younger Lions that I have seen in the videos, they have on polo shirts, they have on caps, they have on visors. Some wear vests and some do not. But that's a tradition that a younger Lion may ask you, what's this idea of a vest? Why do we wear vests all the time? Can we not wear a prominent shirt, etc.? They generally speak in terms of the good old days when talking about when they were happiest in Lionism. For example, you might hear one of them say, well, when I was 25 years ago, we had 1,000 people at our state convention. Or a few years ago, we were just, too many people for the facility we were in. And the question I pose while they're asking me that is, why did you stop coming to conventions and bringing your friends? When questioned about why things are done in a certain way, they generally explain it in the general terms that we've all heard many times and that Jody posed in her fireside chat. We have always done it that way. That is the standard answer when you cannot think of why we need to do it differently. So those are some of the questions that you need to know, behaviors you need to look for, particularly newer members. I want to share with you some inappropriate behaviors that I have personally witnessed in my years as serving as a Lion. Body language, and I will also add verbal language. Jody used the marshmallow. Sometimes when you turn away from a newer member's question, you're also squeezing that marshmallow to her or to him. When they raise a hand and it remains raised through about 5 subsequent questions, the body language is crying out to him or to her. The verbal language, often, yes, not so-and-so by name. Oh, what is your name? I know you're a newer lion, but I don't remember your name. These things have a chilling effect on the interest and the longevity of a lion. Ignoring or failing to communicate with empathy. I've seen a recent example where the club board of directors was polling its members to decide whether to do a certain fundraiser. And a newer lion asked, do we know how many people are going to attend this fundraiser? Do we know how much food we need? Do we know what other groups, other Lions clubs may be involved in this fundraiser? And that question went unanswered, and to this day, it still hasn't been answered. But the board of directors of that traditional club went on with the project, planning the project. This was pre-virus days, never replied to that newer member's questions. They talk about younger or newer lions like they're inanimate objects and they're not in the room with us. Recent example of that behavior at the USA-Canada Forum. I attended a seminar in which the facilitators had a wonderful mixture of younger lions, newer lions, minorities, and several traditionalists. I know them because of the following behavior. After we reported out of our breakout groups, virtually every seasoned lion spoke out first without waiting for a Leo or a younger lion or a millennial to report out. I happened to have selected to be in a group of basically Leos and lions probably under the age of 25 years old. Think about the effect that the reporting out had when those members sat there and those reporting spoke to the facilitators as though the others weren't even in the room. We often fail to understand and practice ethical policies and code of ethics. And oh, by the way, Lionism at every level has an ethics policy. And there are 4 core values of our ethics policy. One is integrity. We all need to act with integrity in our relationships with one another and the public. Accountability. We need to be accountable to others for our behavior, especially our fellow lions. We encourage teamwork. And let me read to you one sentence of our core value on teamwork, which I will explore later in my presentation. We must all practice leadership to train, inspire, and promote full participation and individual development for all lions. Let me repeat that. We must all practice leadership to train, inspire, and promote full participation and individual development for all lions. And the 4th core value, excellence. We are required to perform in an excellent manner. And I'll explore this a little bit later when we're talking about serving our members, where excellence really comes into play. I'm ready for the next slide, Jody. That second question, can we begin to see that serving our members is just as important as the humanitarian service that we provide to the public? Lions are a subset of the public. Lions said yes to your invitation when you asked because they had confidence and a willingness to step out in faith and become part of an organization which does so much more than they might be able to do individually. Orientation is so very important. Can we think of orientation as an ongoing, excellent skill that we provide to our members? Can we begin to focus our meetings, whether they be virtual, whether they be in person, where we use a learning component at each one of those gatherings and those activities, even at service projects? If money is designated from this service project for a certain cause, let's say a dog guide school, can't we talk about what a dog guide school is while we're providing that service? Can't we educate our members? It's so important. Mentoring. Jody mentioned this again during a fireside chat. Mentoring is a lost art to many traditionalists. We make that assumption that you're getting the same value out of your club experience that I'm getting. We never reach down to say, how are things going for you, John? Are you getting out of this what we promised you? That's mentoring, making sure that people are feeling comfortable in the environment that they're in. And they can bring those fresh new ideas and those innovative thoughts to our club and particularly to our service to the public. Leadership opportunities and encouragement. You just heard from the teamwork core value that I read to you. We have a responsibility to develop leaders by giving them leadership opportunities, not throwing them to the wolves, but finding out their passion. I know of one newer club that I was very blessed to have an opportunity to extend in my district. Very proud of them. On the membership application that Lions Clubs International proposes, the president decided he's going to put an addition on there. And he's going to ask a prospective Lion, your passions. And there's 3 blanks where they can put as few as 3 passions, or if they have 23, he'll be glad to entertain that. What a great, innovative idea. That did not come from traditional thinking. That came from newer thinking. So let's encourage Lions, first of all, to understand who they are, what value they bring to our clubs, and then go forward from there. I'm ready for the next slide, Jody. Third, are we willing and able to look at our relationships, to look at our current behaviors and modify them? For example, will we remain stovepiped and turf protectors? What do I mean by that? Many traditionalists, in having discussions with me over the years, tend to want to say that Lions Clubs International, we're too far removed from them. We're too far removed from headquarters. They're a barrier. They're an obstacle. I don't choose to believe that. I have seen firsthand what great employees work for our association headquarters, how willing they are to be an extension of us. As we talk about this, let's remember the basic mission of Lions Clubs International: to enable individuals to serve their community through humanitarian services through Lions Clubs. Our association, which you can call LCI, and our headquarters staff, they're there 24/7 for us to support us in the field. We need to break down these lines of stovepiping, even between clubs. One club resents that another club may do a project near them or on top of them. And oh, by the way, let me digress for 1 minute and go back to traditional behavior. Kyle shared for all of you the results of the Young Lions Task Force survey. It might shock you that more districts around this association in Area 1 and 2 don't want to do club extensions because traditionalists are kind of afraid of new club extensions, whether it's another traditional club, a cyber club, a specialty club, or I sometimes call it special purpose club. They look at newer Lions in another club as competition, not another partner, not another customer base for their fundraisers and service activities. That's what I'm referring to when I'm talking about stovepiping. Are we able to use that one team approach? By that, I mean, will we partner with our headquarters staff? Will we partner with our cabinets and our multiple district leadership to promote all these things I'm talking about? Will we speak with one voice? That developing leaders is very important, that having resources in the field to assist us are very important. Can we share back and forth and complement one another? I think we can. Are we willing to utilize the resources that LCI headquarters provides us? Again, we have so many wonderful tools at our disposal, thanks to our various departments at Lions Clubs International. Lions Clubs International Services Activities Division, for example, they function to find out what activities clubs are doing across this globe, whether it's environmental, whether it's in kids site screening, whether it's in dog guides, etc. And they develop resources. Virtually 95% of the resources that they've developed have come from field input. For example, did you know that dog guide schools and all the information we have about dog guide schools bubbled up from the field, 3 Lions in Michigan? Do you realize that the Leo Club that we're very passionate about, the concept bubbled up from 2 high school football coaches in Pennsylvania, USA? So we have resources of all kinds available to us. The Lions Learning Center. Let me mention one more before I move on. The value of my LCI. In the traditionalist world, some of us can remember when we did a 5-part carbonized membership report each month, and there was a bottom section where we listed the service activities that we had done. My LCI has made it so much easier and more effective for all the world to see what we can do. And yes, My Lion, a new and novel program. There have been hiccups, but that allows Lions around the world to connect with one another more than ever before. Jody, we'll look at the final slide. One of the resources that has been very effective in my view, and a real guide for every Lion, particularly newer Lions, LCI Forward, first and foremost, is a strategic plan, which was created from input from Lions just like you, district leaders just like you, multiple district leaders just like you, past international directors just like some of you. It was a one-team approach to going into our centennial. What will be our strategic plan for 5 years? That plan is being reviewed right now because we're approaching our 5th year. From that, we have 4 strategies of what I call the LCI Forward focus. That wheel, and I invite you to look at this as a iterative process. We want to delight the member. So upper in the left-hand corner, you see improve membership value and reach new markets. Let's ask them. Let's survey them along their journey of Lionism. How's it going? What are we doing for you? Reaching new markets through cyber clubs, specialty clubs, and a whole host of other ideas for club rebuilding and how to invite members effectively. Then we want to enhance service impact and focus, pursuing frontiers of service. We have 5 global causes that we ask Lions around the world to participate in. This does not mean that they can't continue to do activities that may not fall precisely within those global service causes area. But nonetheless, we've given you a roadmap. Then continuing clockwise around the wheel, reshape public opinion and improve visibility. We are doing that by virtue of the fact that we're here today. We're connected on Facebook. We're connected on YouTube. We're giving a face to Lions. And we're asking you to continue doing that, shining a new spotlight, these global causes. During this pandemic, day after day, I have been able to see what Lions of India are doing, Lions in Japan are doing, Lions in Italy. That's shining a spotlight on the service that we provide. And then to be the best association we can be. Pursue club, district, and organizational excellence. That's where teamwork and accountability and excellence come in among club officers. If we have teamwork means, and accountability means that our club leaders, our district leaders, our multiple district leaders, we are accountable to all Lions who need us. We need to develop orientation. We need to develop leadership opportunities. We simply need to develop more mentoring. Mentoring in the sense that we need to stop during our busy meetings and service activities and say, how is this going for you, Mary? Are you getting out of this what we promised you, Nancy? What can we do to make it better for you? The district or the Club Excellence Award for the past 2 years has been based upon how well a club functions with each one of those strategic initiatives. It speaks to membership increase. It speaks to leadership training. It speaks to donations to LCIF and other causes. All of this wheel is encompassed in the club, what we call the Club Excellence Award, and even to some extent, the club or the District Excellence Award. Our final slide. I think the future begins today. I think the future began when you became a Lion and took that oath. And I'm so pleased to let you know that later on during this broadcast, or this symposium, webcast, I should say, some new Lions will have an opportunity to take that oath. And I'm very pleased that this week during the pandemic, that through our virtual connection, I was able to sponsor 2 of those Lions in a new club, special purpose club here in my hometown. So the future begins when you became a Lion. Are you willing to reshape it? Are you willing to ask those tough questions? Challenge the status quo with a new vision and new behaviors. For the traditionalists who I'm speaking to, or those who are not of millennial age, but they're newer Lions, are you willing to have the courage to step out and ask those questions and continue to ask those questions? You see, during this discussion, I have not tried to build a divide between us. I've simply tried to provoke some to think differently, so that we can be one team. There is room for all generations and all diversity to exist within our clubs, regardless of whether they're traditional clubs or whether they're newly formed cyber clubs or specialty clubs. The real test lies in adaptability. And I'm hoping that you can answer those three questions honestly and answer them differently. You move to the next slide, Jody, finally. All right, we skipped one. One more we have. Okay, you're there. My apologies to you, Jody. I want to leave you with a thought. And this one I borrowed from my friend AP Singh, past international director in India. His future of our association is that we be the Amazon of service. Think about that. The Amazon of service. We function 24/7. We train and educate and motivate our staff. Our customers are all over. We are a global organization. Nowhere is that more clearly demonstrated than in Nick's presentation about plastic bags. Those same plastic bags that he picked up and his club is picking up and recycling may end up in our oceans. We see pictures every day. We're a global organization. We are the Amazon of service, and we're going to remain the Amazon of service, but we're going to have to adapt our thinking, our language, and our behavior. I see the future today, and I see a bright future for tomorrow and all of the following days and years. It's been a pleasure, and again, I want to take the opportunity to thank each one of you who asked me to be a part of this, and I want to wish the best of journeys to every newer member who's listening out there today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pastor National Director Steve, for some thoughtful questions about how we interact with other Lions and potential members. We do have a couple of questions that have come through. If you are up for taking those, and we have time on our schedule. So the first one that I've got is from Lion David. How do we get the traditionalists to make time to read or listen to these amazing ideas? New and young Lions can take heart from the support that is in place, as evidenced by presenters like yourself. And I'm going to extrapolate from the comment, the events of today. But do you have any suggestions for Lion David and others?
I do, Lion David. I think that newer members, particularly millennials, who are very comfortable with technology, I think that you have to adopt a traditionalist. That you find that member in your club who's maybe not anti change, but is simply apprehensive about it. Hold their hand, coax them through it. You be their mentor. Mentoring can work two ways. Some of my greatest mentors are the people putting together this symposium. You're never too old to have a mentor, or you're never too young to be a member. Your ideas, and if you're willing to hold hands, now I'm speaking figuratively, if you are willing to hold hands for that person who's not really comfortable with technology, if we're talking about technology, then be that person who can show them and walk them through. If it's something that's non-technology related, again, you have to find the courage and find your voice, as Steve Covey puts it, and simply have those candid, honest conversations that, look, let's call the traditionalist Bill. Look, Bill, we can see a great opportunity to expand this club and do some new service activities. Just listen to us and just promise us you won't be an obstacle, that you'll be neutral, that you'll let us The Seal Beach, California Lions Club is a good model of how you can have 2 and even 3 Lions clubs within one. That's a long answer, but I think there's 2 concepts there. I think it simply takes your personality and your willingness in many cases to be a mentor.
Thank you. We have another question from Lion Gianti. Why are we losing members? Is it due to Lion's leadership or some other strong cause? What do you think?
I believe it's a combination of things, but principally leadership, because as traditional leaders, we make some huge assumptions. Number one, we think that everybody sees Lionism with the passion that we see it, and they don't. Some people need a little more encouragement. Some people need demonstrative teaching. You take them by the hand and show them. I don't think leadership is really asking yet those 3 questions that I've posed today. And I think in many occasions, leadership at all levels is avoiding the answers, avoiding asking the questions. You know, we have lots of surveys out there. We have a wonderful tool called Your Club, Your Way, which I'm a strong advocate of. And we need to use it as we go along, not once a year or once every decade, but once every 6 months. You know, traditionalists will talk about, well, when you lose a member, let's go do an exit survey. Personally, I think that's too late. I want your opinion while you're a member. I'm not likely to get candor after you have left the organization. But we lose members because we don't focus on changing the answer to question 2. And we certainly don't change the answer to question 1. And 3, we don't allow people to have the resources that are right there under our nose. And to spread responsibility completely across leadership, sometimes our policy writers, whether they're at the multiple district or headquarters level, we develop a program, but we never really translate the need to that program to the field. I think the genius in the Young Lions Task Force is the fact that they understand that they have a higher calling than to simply give you some textbook answers, that they're doing things like we are experiencing today, and that they're moving this association forward because they're offering some palatable suggestions and alternatives to the answers to these 3 questions. I spent a long time answering that question. The short answer is leadership, individual lions have to take responsibility. Ask yourself out there, when's the last time you invited a lion to be a member of our association?
Thank you. We have 2 more, and we've got time for them. This next one is from Lion Roger. He said, thank you for creating awareness about serving our members. A prime example is the forgotten, stagnant, dedicated, and knowledgeable past district governors. How can we get them in the loop? And he sent a follow-up comment or question that I'm going to just try to summarize, because they've got some experience in his area with a small percentage of past district governors staying active in their own clubs and district, and looking for a way to, again, how can we get them active and supportive again in Lions?
Roger, thank you for the question. I'm going to give you a short answer today, but I will also share with you, I did a white paper on this very subject within the last 6 months. If you get my email and contact me, I'll send it to you. But you are right. My answer is conditioned on the willingness of a past district governor to remain active and engaged with newer Lions. I think oftentimes we don't automatically snub them or ignore them, but I think in their own minds, they become a traditionalist by saying, I've served my time, somebody else needs to do it. So it rests both with them and with leadership at the club and particularly district level, you just keep reaching out with those positive ideas and those positive thoughts, finding something for them to do. I think every district governor should find a certain thing that a past district governor that she knows or he knows is passionate about, and let them have an opportunity to do that. You know, we think in terms of a district cabinet, the global action team, the district leadership team, but past district governors can be an extension of that. If there's a troubled club, by troubled I mean they've lost their way, uh, they're not serving, or they're not growing, they're regressing. Ask a past district governor who has a little bit of passion about them to go work with them. Just go listen. Be a listening board and a mentor. We can't go anywhere waving guns. And here's the magic potion in this booklet I'm bringing you. Listening is the real key. Finding their passion and then utilizing them one on one. If you have 25 past district governors sitting in a room and you ask for a show of hands who wants to volunteer to be a guiding lion, you're probably not going to get but one or two. But one on one, you may find them willing to be a rebuilding lion or a guiding lion. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. And that's a good tip for seeking volunteers for all activities. I think when we're in a room, we tend to assume that somebody else will take that on.
Yes.
But seeking out folks based on their interests and passions is super suggestion. Last question I have is from Lion Frank. He says, I have a 96-year-old club and many young members whom he sponsored could not stay long with their older members, and he is going into his 30th year as a Lion. How can I save my club?
Oh, Frank, the challenge for us all, sometimes the answer is, and Daniel Elkins can speak to this as well as I ever could. His remedy was to branch some people off that older club and begin to do different service activities that could enlighten some of these older members who have lost their older in terms of years of service and in chronological age. So branching is an idea. Sometimes if there are enough people with different passions do not want to serve in a traditional fashion, then you can form a special purpose club, but continue to be partners with that older club. Again, in partnership with is extremely important. The dynamics of human behavior make it difficult for me to say, okay, suggest this, change this personality. We cannot change anything from the outside. We can only change it from the inside. We can continue to work with and encourage those older members, but we have to acknowledge the loss may be greater with the 30 younger members. So find a way to build partnerships, either allowing them to be a branch club and continue to partner with, and even after they become a club on their own, don't drop the partnership with the former club.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the thoughts, the considerations for us as we go forward, and some great responses.
You're quite welcome.
Appreciate you, Past International Director Steve. We are going to bring another of our behind the scenes team members out front for this next presentation. Lion Daniel Marnie Elkins from Wilmington,